right back at you with another video. Yes, welcome back to Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews on behalf of Summit Kaiju. And today we're doing a double figure review of the X Plus 30cm Standard Edition and the X Plus 25cm Ric Boy Edition of the Kaiju Varan from the classic film Varan the Unbelievable. And as you can see, I have all the beautiful figures of Varan here. And this is awesome. And the reason why I'm doing this because this year marks the 60th anniversary of this film, of Varan the Unbelievable. And aside from the fact that he was only in Destroy All Monsters for 2 seconds, and I mean that literally 2 seconds, Varan, in my opinion, is a really underrated kaiju. And this is really an underrated film. And it's a shame that we did not see more of him and other kaiju films, you know. But once again, this is the 60th anniversary of the film, and I figure I'd show the kaiju some love on his anniversary or his birthday, because the movie came out October 14th in 1958. So I know I'm kind of jumping the gun by a couple of months, but you know what? I want to show love and support to this awesome underrated kaiju, you know. And you know how we do things around here? I normally have the boxes on display here, but unfortunately, I'm sorry, there will be no box toss. I'm sorry. I'm ditching my boxes. You know, like I mentioned before in other videos, we're going to get to that point that the more stuff you accumulate, and if you like to keep the boxes like I do, it's going to come a time, the more you accumulate, the more, the less space you're going to have. So I'd rather have space for a new figure than a box. So that's why I don't have the boxes. I ditched them a long time ago. The 25cm box of Varan was just the standard Toho large Monster Series box, you know, with the white, red, window display, blah, blah, blah. Varan, just like the regular 30cm box with the great artwork, had a picture of Varan and the face of Varan in the background and his name, blah blah blah, as well as his the Japanese text of the film he was in, Varan the Unbelievable 1958. And that's pretty much it with the boxes, you know. And once again, no box toss, but hey, it's about the figures, right? The figures are what matters most, all right? And the backstory about these figures are not really a long one. But it's really interesting, especially when it comes to 25cm on my part. And both of these figures, I got them through other collectors. I didn't get them through a vendor like on eBay or AmiAmi, Hobby Search, or whatever. Once again, I make no bones about the fact that I got into X Plus a little bit late than some folks. I got into it, I want to say around 2012 or 13 or something like that. I didn't really start collecting hard until 2013, 2014, and so on. So these were the figures that I missed out upon in their initial run, right? And I got the 30 from a fellow collector called Ryan Mitchell. I believe he's over there in the UK. He's heavy in the monster model kits and stuff like that. Great guy. And I happened to get this figure from him. And I got the Ric Boy. This was originally the Ric Boy, and it came with the little small Baradagi statue that you see in the very first shot of Varan the Unbelievable. You know what I mean? And I got the Ric. And that was at a time that I really didn't appreciate the Rics as I do now. Now, there are some Ric Boy options that I had that I really didn't mind like giving away. As a matter of fact, the Ric option that I did give away, I gave it to a great friend of mine, Broly Vang. As a matter of fact, he got the Ric Boy option of my Godzilla 1984 when I first got that. It was a Ric. It came with a little giant sea louse. I didn't mind getting rid of that. I got the 30cm Titanosaurus Ric that came with a small submarine. I didn't mind giving that away. And I had a statue of Baradagi. And I was like, you know what? I really didn't need this, you know. So I just gave it to Burley. I think him and I had a deal in place. And he either gave me a figure and I gave you those Ric Boy options or whatever. But which has helped us become brothers as we are today, you know. But looking back on it now, I wish I would have kept that statue. But I know it's in good hands. Burley, I still love you, bro. I still do. You know, so I know it's in good hands, you know. But looking back on it now, I wish I would have kept my hands on it. But, you know, it is what it is. And I got the 25cm this year. And I got it through another fellow collector called, Paul Romero. And he happened to sell it to me. And it's the Ric, and it comes with the little small flying Varan. This is awesome. And between the two, I'm going to say this right now, I love Varan. I love my figures of Varan. As a matter of fact, my second oldest daughter, Olivia, she loves Varan for some reason. Like, you know, when I met her mother and she found out I was into Godzilla and all this stuff, and she would see all these statues, these vinyl statues of all these kaijus or whatever. She was drawn to Varan. Varan and Space Godzilla for some reason. For some reason, she loves the look of Varan and the look of Space Godzilla. And I will agree, there are interesting looking kaiju in terms of design and stuff like that. But it's something about Varan that my second oldest daughter Olivia, loves so much, you know, and I can't blame her. But back to the 25 centimeter, I got it through Paul Romero, and this is the one that I've been after for so long. You know what I mean? The 25 centimeter Varan is an awesome figure. It really is. And between the two, I like the 25 centimeter better. I just like the four-legged Varan better. Actually, both Varans are really awesome, and it's nice that even though it's the same monster, you get like a different perspective. It's almost like a whole new monster, with him being more upright, more Godzilla-esque in this version of the 30, and you have him more of a Baragon, Anguirus type of pose with the 25. I really like that, you know. But between the two, I've been after this one. This has been like one of my holy grails for years. It's a 25, right? And I hope, because it's the 60th anniversary of the 60th anniversary of the film, I was hoping that X Plus were getting around to reissue either one of these figures, you know, preferably the 25, because I know the 25 has been sought after by collectors for so many years, because the 25 centimeter came out in 2012, standard and Rics, right? The 30 centimeter Varan came out the same year, 2012, but it was also reissued again in 2011. No, it's my fault. 2013, excuse me, in a more black and white tone, because that's how we saw Varan. The film was in black and white. Even though I don't mind having the natural colors of Varan, ordinarily I like to have the kaiju look how it was on film, like the original 1954 Godzilla. I prefer him black and white. But with Varan, I want to make an exception of him having his more earthly colors of what we saw briefly in Destroy All Monsters for 2 seconds. You know, but the 30 centimeter came out in 2012, then the black and white of the 30 came out in 2013, then it was reissued through Diamond in 2014, and like I said, the 25 centimeter was only issued once in 2012, and that's it. So I hope before the year is out, because pretty much the year is pretty much already spoken for or accounted for with all the pre-orders that have been announced. I mean, there are a couple that have not been announced that we probably will see something drop for November as well as December, but we still got a couple months left, so you never know. X Plus may getting around to reissue one, if not both of these figures, you know, and I hope they do, because X Plus is known to do that. They're known to drop figures or reissue figures to coincide with certain films or TV shows, anniversaries or anything like that. So I hope they do that for Varan. If not this year, late this year, hopefully get a reissue of some kind next year or whatever, because Varan, you know, deserves a reissue. I know a lot of folks may not even know what Varan is, but they know of the kaiju, they know of the impressive and unique design of Varan. And even if you're not a huge fan of the film or whatever, you have to admit, this is a cool monster and a cool design of a monster to have in vinyl figure form. And to have the best, you might as well go with the X Plus version, whether it's the 25 centimeter or the 30. Alright, so that's pretty much the backstory about me having these figures. Once again, thank you to Ryan Mitchell for the 30. Thank you to Paul Romero for the 25. I really do appreciate it. And once again, it's all about showing Varan some love. It's all about showing Varan some love. Happy 60th anniversary. And it's awesome. So, you know how we do things around here. Let's get into up close and personal with the 25 centimeter as well as the 30 centimeter of Varan from Varan the Unbelievable. Alright, let's go. Okay, folks, here we are, up close and personal with the 25 centimeter Ric as well as the standard 30 centimeter of Varan from Varan the Unbelievable. And let's start off with the flying version first. Like I said, this is the Ric Boy option that came with the 25 centimeter, right? And this is a nice representation of Varan. Oh, also, I forgot to mention earlier when it came down to release dates of Varan, in addition to the 25 centimeter that came out in 2012, as well as the 30 that came out in 2012 and 2013, and the reissue of 2014, Varan was also reissued the flying version, the puppet version of Destroy All Monsters in the Destroy All Monsters set with the 25cm 68 Baragon. So I forgot to mention that. And me having this flying version reminded me of that, so I'm sorry I didn't mention that earlier. But this is a nice version of Varan, you know, the flying version. Even though I know some folks find the flying sequences in Varan kind of ridiculous, you know, but I actually like it. This is a nice Ric Boy option, you know, with the membranes, him spread out where he can soar through the air. The detail on this thing is nice. I'm gonna try and get up, see it up close and personal, so you can get the. Hope it'll focus here. There you go. See, look at that. That's awesome. This really is awesome. Even a small Ric Boy option like this, X Plus put a lot of detail in this thing. You know, and I hope they actually, you know what, give us full-scale flying monsters in the future. I hope they expand their roster and give us full-scale flying monsters, full 30cm 25, like Varan, or like a Hedra, or like a Gigan, or Mechagodzilla, or a Rodan. You know, it would be nice to have these flying kaijus, or kaijus that are capable of being airborne, or that can fly, in these flying poses. But this is nice. This really is nice. And I got this stand here from, I got it from Michael's for like $5. So if you have this, you can put this there. And with it being brown, like Varan, you know, it's a nice piece to have. It's a nice piece to put your Varan on and attach to and just have them in the air. Or maybe you can try one of your, if you're into SH Monster Arts and you have a couple SH Monster Arts pieces, stands laying around, I'm sure it probably can work for that too. But basically both Varans are really, really awesome. They're pretty much the same in terms of paint job or whatever. I love the brown, almost brick color on both Varans. You know, he just has that awesome look. It's just an awesome look, you know. And with the back here, I'll show the back right here. Like I said, both of the backs are pretty much the same, you know. And ironically, this year at G-Fest a couple weeks ago, the suit maker of Varan was there. I think his name is Kaizo Morase. I saw him walking around G-Fest, you know, talking with people. But yes, he was the one that either designed, created, or at least had a hand in creating the original Varan suit. And he did a great job. Now, as far as the back is concerned, for what I understand, the mold that he used for that, he just basically took some peanut shells and put it into the mold to make the back, which is why his back has a lot of detail in it. You know, I'm gonna try and bring up the, there you go. See, look at all the detail in Varan right there. You know, I'm gonna get to the spines in a little bit, but the detail in both Varans are awesome. You know, and it's just, my God, this is amazing. This really is amazing. So yeah, like I said, the detail on the skin is not, I wouldn't call it tree bark skin like Godzilla, but it's almost similar to it. And once again, X Plus goes beyond, you know, for the detail, you know, the craftsmanship they put into these figures to recreate the suit. They go for suit realism versus monster realism, which is why I see this right here. This is how, because Haruo Nakajima was playing Varan in this film, and you can tell it just has that look of a man on his hands and knees crawling like a four-legged creature would do, especially in a suit. Now, if it was a monster per se, I'm sure X Plus would have worked it where it could have been anatomically correct for the legs to be like the same size as the other legs. But since this basically Haruo Nakajima's arms here and his legs and his knees right here, it just goes for more so for suit realism, and I really do like that. And the membranes that would expand when he would go into his flying form is really more pronounced here on the 25 because it kind of like sticking out. Well, actually, you know what? It actually pronounced on both of them. As you can see, it's more pronounced from the back, as you see the flaps flap out here on the 25. But from the front of the 30, that's where they are right there. You know what I mean? So it looks good. It really looks good. The face on Varan, unbelievable. Hopefully it'll focus. Look at that. That is awesome. That is awesome. That's the thing about Varan. He doesn't really have like a great character in the film. He's just an angry kaiju that wants to kill people, cause a rampage, and that's it. He doesn't have like a character towards him. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. But these figures have characters. These figures have characters, you know. Pretty much the same look on the 25 is the same as on the 30 here. He just has that menacing, ticked off look. Both versions feature like the same color on his claws as well as his toes here. More for off white, bone white, yellowish type of color. You know, it's awesome. One last thing before we move on: the spines. The spines, oh my God, translucent spines all over his back here, you know, as well as the 30 here. And from what I understand, I think Mr. Murase, Kaiser Murase, he used like, I think, like a water hose or something to create the spines of Varan. And they look good. They really look good. I watched the film recently, and I had both these figures like on my lap as I watched them, just to make sure that X Plus, you know, did an almost perfect job, and they did. They have done a perfect job with both Varans. Like I mentioned, I prefer the 25, and I've been after that figure for so many years as a collector, and I got the Ric no less, which is awesome. But I'm not going to sell the 30 short either. The 30 is awesome too. So hopefully, like I mentioned before, X Plus will reissue this, you know, just, you know, in time for the 60th anniversary. We still got a couple more months left. I know, like I mentioned earlier, the year is already pretty much spoken for. The good majority of the year is almost pretty much spoken for. Only thing left that's coming out, that's not come out yet, is the Space Godzilla Ric Boy set with Little Godzilla, the 30cm Sakai Shin, both Ric and Standard, 30cm Jet Jaguar, the new Gigantic Series Shin with the roaring head. I think a few Ultraman pieces are coming out. Not to mention the Defo reels of 84, 62, GMK. Just a lot of stuff is coming, and hopefully they'll get around to reissuing these Varan pieces before the year is out to coincide with the 60th anniversary of the film. But once again, these figures are amazing. The paint job, the sculpts on both of them is really actually all three of them, because I'm not trying to sell the flying version short either. But once again, I hope when it comes to the flying version that they do start making full-scale flying versions of our favorite kaijus. Like I said, with Varan, Hedra, Gigan, Mechagodzilla, Rodan, you know, stuff like that. Or even Jet Jaguar. I would love a flying Jet Jaguar. But paint scheme, sculpt, and all three versions of Varan is awesome. And you see right now in this one shot, you get three different perspectives from one single kaiju. Four-legged, upright, more Godzilla statuesque, two-legged, as well as the flying version. And that's awesome. That's awesome. It just shows how versatile Varan is, and just how underrated, like I mentioned, he is. And I really don't throw around that word a lot, and I tend to throw it around to things that I feel is underrated, as far as films, characters, kaijus or whatever. But I do think that Varan, even though he was just in 2 films and was going to be in GMK, but that didn't pan out too well. I just think that Varan is very, very underrated, and it's a shame that we didn't see more of him. But then again, we could see him, you know, when they start producing more of the Godzilla films from Toho in the next few years. You never know. We could see Varan make a comeback, and I would love that. I really would. But yes, I highly recommend these pieces. If you can find them for a good price, please do take advantage of it. You know, especially the 25. That thing, woo! Oh my God, that thing is so amazing. It really is. Alright, so let's do at least 1 or 2 size comparisons, and we'll wrap up this review with my thoughts of Varan the Unbelievable. Alright, let's go with the first size comparison. Okay, folks, this is the first size comparison, and alongside the 30cm Varan, I have the 30cm Godzilla 1955, or Gigantus, from Gigantus the Fire Monster. You know what? I had no issue calling him that. I know some Godzilla fans find that blasphemy when you refer to this Godzilla as Gigantus, because they consider Gigantus the Fire Monster being an embarrassment. I don't, you know. As a matter of fact, this will be coming up for a review really, really soon. I will do a review on this one, because I have a lot to say about that film, Godzilla Raids Again, of Gigantus the Fire Monster. But getting back to the size comparison at hand, he looks really, really good. Oh, also one thing that I didn't mention earlier is that Varan does have somewhat of a lean issue, you know, but he doesn't topple over like, let's say, the 1964 Rodan in both 25 and 30cm, right? He doesn't topple over. What keeps him from toppling over is his tail. If he didn't have a tail, I'm pretty sure he would go down like this, because with his leg right here, his right leg, being like contorted towards his tail or towards the base of his tail, he does have that tendency to be leaning just a little bit. But the fact that he has more of he has more of a Godzilla structure anyway, you know, with his arms up like this and his spines. He does look like Godzilla in a way. More ironic since they're both portrayed by the same guy, Haruo Nakajima, but his tail keeps him more so grounded. But if you do get this figure, just be mindful of the potential lean issue. As you can see, mine has not toppled over at all, and he hasn't toppled over, but I can't say the same if you get a similar figure, because we all know sometimes all these figures are not made exactly the same, and some may have issues, some may not, but I just want to just put that out there. But as you can see, it looked good. These two look good together. It would have been good to see them getting on or see them fight, you know, maybe not in a full feature-length movie, but maybe we could have saw something kind of like in Ghidorah 3-Headed Monster, where Godzilla fights Rodan, but it wasn't the main fight of the film. We could have saw Godzilla and Varan getting on, and maybe that could have served just a small purpose until we got to the main fight. You know, once again, it's just a shame that Varan was not in more films after Varan the Unbelievable. I'm not even going to count Destroy All Monsters. Why should I? You know, even though he's technically in it. But like I said, he doesn't do anything of substance at all. He's just shown briefly. And it's not even the full suit. It's just a puppet, which is a shame. But it's fun to have figures like these and put them together and just have your imagination run wild and just think what woulda, coulda, shoulda happened. You know, but you can't deny it. Seeing Varan oppose Godzilla would have made for an interesting matchup. You know. All right, let's go with one more size comparison and we'll talk about Varan the Unbelievable. Let's go with the second and last size comparison. Okay, folks, this is the last size comparison, and alongside Varan, the 25cm Varan, I have the 25cm Gigan 1972, the 25cm 1968 King Ghidorah, as well as the 1971 Godzilla. And I put these four together to comprise the lineup somewhat of Godzilla versus Gigan, with the exception of the 71, which in a way kind of looks like the 72, aside from the eye patch thing. But if you have the Ric Boy, where it has the top of the head where Godzilla's eyes are both intact, you know, this would make for a killer setup. And honestly, that's the thing. Before we got the final product of Godzilla vs. Gigan, Varan was actually scheduled, like he was in GMK, to be part of GMK. Varan was actually scheduled to be a part of this film. It was going to be Godzilla, Rodan, and Varan against King Ghidorah, Gigan, and another monster called Mogu, or something like that. I don't know much about this monster called Mogu. I've just read on TohoKingdom.com there was going to be like a flying monster that can fire an oral ray from his mouth. That's all I know. But that was the plan. That was a plan to bring Varan back and have him fight alongside Godzilla to oppose King Ghidorah, Gigan, and this new monster. And that's the thing. I'm looking over all the Godzilla films, and I'm saying to myself, because I wish, once again, that Varan would have been in more films. Or I wish we could have saw him do something else other than what we saw him doing in Varan the Unbelievable, as well as Destroy All Monsters. And I thought to myself, you know what? He would have been perfect in Godzilla vs. Gigan. I take nothing away from Anguirus, because I love Anguirus. We all love Anguirus, Angulus, or Anguirus, whatever you want to call him. And this film alone, Godzilla vs. Gigan, to me, solidified that Anguirus is Godzilla's right-hand man. We all know that. To me, Godzilla vs. Gigan is more important for that reason to establishing Anguirus as Godzilla's best friend than anything else, in my opinion. One of the reasons why I love that film so much. But what history could have been altered and we could have got Varan instead? Just imagine the visual of Godzilla and Varan in the ocean, swimming from Monster Island to Japan to combat King Ghidorah and Gigan. Would have been nice. And this is one thing I say about Godzilla vs. Gigan anyway. When it comes to how the teams were set up, in a way, like I mentioned before, King Ghidorah and Gigan should have won that fight. You know, Godzilla and Anguirus were clearly the underdogs. But if, let's say, you would have put Varan into the situation, Varan is a airborne kaiju, has potential to be airborne. You know, he could have battled King Ghidorah and Gigan in the air. That would have been awesome to see. While Godzilla fights either Gigan and King Ghidorah on the ground, What if we had an area battle involving Varan versus King Ghidorah or Varan versus Gigan? So it's just one of those woulda, coulda, shoulda things. You know what I mean? Even though I love Godzilla's Gigan the way it is, and I take nothing away from it, I wouldn't change anything. But if I had to change one thing, I would have liked to see what would have happened if Varan would have got added to the mix. And as you can see right here, it would have made for a killer setup, especially with these four together. You know, just the potential of what we could have gotten, or what could have happened. You know, but hey, only one can dream, right? So that's pretty much it with the size comparison between the 30 centimeter Varan as well as the 25 centimeter, and they look great together. Whether Varan is paired together with the 30 centimeter and 25 and the flying, or with 30 centimeter with Godzilla, or this one with Gigan, King Ghidorah, and Godzilla, it looks awesome. It really does. Alright, so let's talk about Varan the Unbelievable, and we'll wrap this review up. And thank you so much for staying here with me so far. Alright, let's go. Okay, folks, I'm back, and let's talk about Varan the Unbelievable for a little bit. Once again, Varan the Unbelievable, I like the movie. I think it's an okay movie. You know, I'm not saying it's bad. It's like in the middle as far as I'm concerned. It's not bad. It's not overly great. I just say it's good, and it's just okay. I do appreciate Toho between Godzilla 1954 and Godzilla Rise Again, that they were venturing off and developing new kaiju films like Rodan, like this one, like Mothra, and other science fiction films like The Mysterians and Atragon and other things before they brought Godzilla back in King Kong vs. Godzilla. But Varan is a very interesting kaiju in terms of design and as well as his backstory. Basically, he's just a god. He's like worshipped by this tiny village up in northern Japan. He lives in a saltwater lake, and that's basically it. And he just comes out of the saltwater lake and just kills people, and then he goes on a rampage, and that's pretty much it. You know, there's not really much for character to him. Far as like the movie itself, I know it was going to be a co-production between Toho and I believe it was ABC Television. They probably saw the success of the other Toho kaiju films with Godzilla, Godzilla Rise Again, and Rodan, you know, whatever, and decided, hey, you know, let's try and work with Toho to make a monster film. But some way midway through the production, ABC Television or whoever pulled out, and at that point Toho was left with a whole bunch of footage, and they had the music done somewhat, and the main story was more so in place. So they decided to salvage what they had and made it a full-length feature film, because the film was originally going to be like a TV miniseries, which is why I guess the American producers wanted to get involved with it. Like I said, they probably saw the success of Godzilla Rodan and Godzilla Rise Again and blah blah blah, and decided they wanted to have a monster movie. And as you can tell, Varan has those traits of Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra. Godzilla, Rodan, and Anguirus. You know, with him being more upright with the 30 centimeter right here, he's more Godzilla-esque. He can fly like Rodan, you know, soar in the air like Rodan. He can be quadruped, four-legged, on the ground on all fours like Anguirus. You know, so I think they combined elements for those three great monsters and put it all into Varan. You know, and like I said, the main two reasons why I recommend Varan the Unbelievable is Varan himself, the design, as well as the music. The music is awesome from Akira Ifukube. You know, and you heard some of it early on in this video, in the intro, and it's actually that theme, that the music for this film is so amazing, and it's really epic. In a way, it's kind of even more epic than the film itself. But you can hear those other things that was reworked and revamped for Rodan and Ghidorah, three-headed monster, and it will be used for Monster Zero and Destroy All Monsters, blah, blah, blah. It's like this soundtrack was more so experimental that will go on to be used for other more epic kaiju films, but it's still an epic kaiju film soundtrack nonetheless. But my main gripe with this film is the pacing. Sometimes there are moments where the pacing just drags, you know, especially in the scene where the military comes in, they find out that Varan is alive and he's out there and blah, 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 and they come in and try to drive him out of his lake. And then Varan rises out of the lake and he's basically giving chase to the military. The military is falling back before Varan flies off and heads towards the ocean. The pacing there where Varan is tearing his way through the forest to get to the military and some other people kind of drags a little bit, as well as when he flies out to sea and he starts rampaging in the waters around Tokyo and blah blah blah, and starts capsizing fishing boats, and his fights with the military before he makes landfall at the airport. I think the pacing there, where it does kind of drag. It's not boring, but you can tell that they were padding the film. They were trying to add more time because this originally was going to be a miniseries. And the way I would have done it if it was a miniseries, I would have had it basically like in 3 or 4 parts. The first part would have been after, you know, the 2 scientists, 2 research people go to the area where Varan is and tries to collect those butterflies, but instead they get killed by Varan. Then once Varan reveals himself for the first time in front of the villagers and blah blah blah, that's when you end part 1. All right. Then part 2 can be devoted to, okay, the military is made aware of Varan's existence and they go to try and lure him out, which they do, and then he flies away and he goes into the ocean. That could be in part 2. Then part 3, where you have the story involving Varan capsizing fishing boats and military engagements, you know, of him to try to keep him away from Japan. That could be part 3. And then part 4 is when Varan, you know, leads up to him arriving in Tokyo, at least at the airport, because he only trashes the airport. He doesn't really get to Tokyo. And then just have him trash the airport, and then they take him down, and then that'll be in a part 4. That's what I would have done, you know, but you can tell that they were trying to pad the film with these sequences that were just long, and just the pacing was just not the best that it could have been, you know, whatever. But I do like the ending. I do like the ending where they trip Varan into swallowing some flares that has a special type of gunpowder in there. And also I gotta give a huge shout out to Haruo Nakajima, rest in peace, good sir, because he played Varan in this film. And there's a scene where Varan, when he first makes landfall at the airport, one of the protagonists drives a truck that's filled with gunpowder, and they drive it underneath Varan, or at least they place it there where Varan would just crawl on top of it, and they blow it up, and Varan basically just falls over. They're thinking that he's dead, but he's not. In real life, that sequence actually burned Haruo Nakajima at his private parts, and they had to have somebody to fulfill the rest of the role for the remainder of the film. But you gotta give it to Haruo Nakajima. Between being buried alive in Frankenstein Conquers the World as Baragon, between fighting that heavy Godzilla suit in water in Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster where he could have easily drowned. I don't think suit actors get the credit and recognition that they deserve for going through what they went through to get these films done. So applause for Haruo Nakajima, especially for that sequence. But as far as the very ending, you know, they dropped these flares because the flares were used earlier to get Varan's attention before he makes his escape from the mountains to the ocean. And they dropped some flares down filled with gunpowder, and that special gunpowder, and Varan swallows 2 of them. One detonates in his body and obviously affects him, or at least damages him, or at least causes him a lot of pain, to the point where he stops his rampage midway through and he goes back into the ocean. And then the next thing we know, we see another explosion, and the military concludes that Varan was dead. You know, that basically killed Varan. But we never actually saw Varan get blown up. We just saw the explosion, because Varan went back underwater before the second explosion, you know, exploded. Right? So I think that was probably Toho's way of protecting themselves, that they wanted to bring Varan back. Like in Godzilla King of the Monsters, or at least in the original Godzilla, it's not mentioned in the American version of Godzilla King of the Monsters, but in Gojira, they surmised that, you know, after Godzilla is dead from the oxygen destroyer, they surmised that another Godzilla creature may come back if we continue with nuclear testing. So that was their way of protecting themselves in case a sequel was coming. And indeed, the sequel was coming yet less than like a year later with Godzilla Raised Again. So they protect themselves of saying, how could Godzilla come back, by saying, oh, if you go back to the original, when the characters say, Dr. Yamane says, if nuclear testing continues, then another Godzilla may come into the fray. So that was their way of protecting themselves if they needed to bring a sequel. I think with Varan, I think they probably did have plans to make a sequel, at least bring Varan back. It's a shame that he didn't come back until a decade later with Destroy All Monsters, and when he does come back, it's not what it should have been, or what it could have been, you know. But once again, Varan has a great following. He's a great kaiju. Like I said, very underrated. Too bad we didn't see more of him in other films or whatever, but that's also what makes Varan the Unbelievable that much more important, because we have just that one film to go to see Varan. And you know, and like I said, it's an okay film. It's not exactly a great film, you know. Whereas Godzilla, Rodan have characters within themselves in their movies, and yes, people, kaijus do have characters. You know, they have motivation and reasonings to why they're doing what they're doing. Both Godzilla and Rodan has those characterizations, has those deep, rich characterization and motivations to give them more of a character. They're not just monsters running loose, causing rampages and causing destruction for the sake of causing destruction. They have a motivation and reason why they're there. Varan doesn't have that. Varan doesn't really have a motivation. You can maybe argue that when those scientists, you know, approached this area, maybe that disturbed him. And then when the army came in and lured him out, that also disturbed him, that made him go angry and crazy. You can probably argue that's the reason why Varan does what he does. But more or less, Varan doesn't really have a character. But once again, that's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. You know, you have these great films, alternative films, that does necessarily need to have everything else that the previous films have. You know, sometimes it could be just a light film involving a monster that comes in, rampages, kills people, destroys stuff, and just have a good time with it. And I really do have a good time with Varan the Unbelievable. You know what I mean? So yeah, if you can find the film out there for a good price, cause I got a DVD, but it's a bootleg, and I watch it every now and then. You know, when I want to watch something other than Godzilla and Gamera, like I mentioned with my Frankenstein X Plus figure review, that sometimes I don't want to see a Godzilla film whenever I want to see a great kaiju film. So you have films like Frankenstein Conquers the World, War of the Gargantuas, and Varan the Unbelievable to, you know, just to fill your appetite when you want great kaiju action that doesn't involve a giant super turtle or a giant radioactive dinosaur, you know. So that pretty much concludes my review of my double figure review, actually, of the X Plus 25cm Ric version of Varan, as well as the 30cm standard version of Varan from the classic film, 1958 film, Varan the Unbelievable. You have any questions, holler me down in the comment section, or hit me on Facebook via Leslie P. Chambers. We'll definitely go from there. Yes, once again, I've been talking about I want to get to these reviews, especially this double figure review of Varan, just in time for the film's 60th anniversary, and I'm glad I got it done. And hopefully I can get y'all, if you never heard of Varan, or at least seen pictures of him and have not had the motivation to try and learn more about him, I suggest try and watch the movie. I really do recommend the movie, even though, like I said, it's not up there with other epics like Godzilla King of the Monsters, or Rodan, or Monster Zero, or any of the other epics of this time period, but it's a nice alternative. Now, I'm all for kaiju alternatives, like this one, War of the Gargantuas, Frankenstein Conquers the World, King Kong Escapes, blah, blah, blah. And this is a nice alternative to go into. And show Varan some love on his 60th anniversary. The guy is turning 60. Come on, let's show him some love. All right, you will not be disappointed. So whether you go after the DVD, the movie, Blu-ray, if it is out there for the movie, the Blu-ray, or if you go after these awesome figures, hopefully X Plus will reissue these at some point this year, or maybe sometime soon next year. But I think Varan is due for a reissue. He really is. And when it does come up for pre-order or for a reissue, I'm sure one is coming at some point, do not hesitate to get your hands on either the X Plus 25cm or the 30cm versions of Varan from Varan the Unbelievable. Alright? So I thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see y'all again on next figure move review. Alright? Y'all take it easy.